That is true. We will be including my newborn baby in executive session motion.
Has he signed an NDA?
I think I will have to sign for him. He's chill right now. So far, he's a pretty chill baby.
Are always very chill for like first like 2 or 3 weeks, and then you don't get any more sleep after that ever again.
Yeah, and you just text yourself, talk to Mr. Nikela about pronouncing something good, and then what happens?
We'll see. We'll see. We'll see.
Okay, we should be going live on YouTube in just one moment. Okay, we are live on YouTube.
Okay, great. So I think at this point, it's 3:12 p.m. Eastern time. I'm going to go ahead and call us to order. And then, Madam Secretary, when you're ready, if you don't mind, I will let you handle attendance roll call.
Certainly. So everyone, just for the recording, even though I do have you down, this is just a confirmation. So Ms. McCardle is present. Yeah. Mr. Smith,
I'm here.
Mr. Hagopian,
Here.
I am present. Mr. Blankenship,
I'm here.
Mr. Bowen said he would be absent. Mr. Elliott. Okay, let me just mark him down as absent. Mr. Nikela.
I'm present.
Okay. Mr. Rufo. Okay, he is absent. Mr. Benner,
Present.
Mr. Duque,
Present.
Mr. Eklund,
I am digitally present.
Ms. Eiler,
Present.
Mr. Ford,
Live at the Libertarian Party of Worcester Christmas Party.
okay, Mr. Gabbard. I mean, not Mr. Oh my God, Ms. Gabbard. She is not present yet.
She just told me that she also needs a link. She can't find hers.
Okay, I will do that after we finish roll call. I don't
No
think I
problem.
saw hers register, but I'll let you know. Mr.
Okay.
Nana,
I'm here.
Mr. Watkins,
Yup.
Mr. Clark,
Here.
Mr. Cowan. Okay, I have him as absent. Mr. Dassing,
Here.
Mr. Hall. I don't show him as present. Mr. Nepomuceno,
Present.
Mr. Pankey,
Here.
Mr. Tunyevich. Okay, have him as absent. Ms. Yanuskevich.
Here.
Okay, for staff, I have Mr. Kraus and Ms. Houston, and I have Mr. Comm here as the unofficial assistant secretary. Madam Chair, I'll turn it back to you while I go try to help Ms. Gabbard.
And Madam Secretary, we also have Andy Bukovich from staff.
Oh, thank you.
No worries.
Mike,
Oh, on staff.
Mike Rufo says that he'll be joining as well.
Okay, let me go see if I can help Ms. Gabbard. Let me see if I can find her registration. Let me stop the share a minute. I don't want to
Yep, no
breach
worries.
anyone's privacy with their email
All right.
addresses.
Good catch.
Okay, I am resending her confirmation email right now.
Okay.
I'm
All right.
stoked.
Stand by, everyone.
And she emailed me, so I am letting her know. Resent.
Oh, Brian Elliott just asked for the link as well.
Okay, I'm waiting for my beach ball, but it seems there's a lot of announcements that need to be done about.
I usually get the link and then I don't even think to check to make sure it went through, but I did not see one when I went to search for it.
You
before the
weren't
meeting.
you weren't registered.
That's strange. I thought I did. Also, last time I think I registered with my Yahoo, which is why it didn't pull me into executive session, because that's the wrong
Okay.
email from my Kate account, but I registered with my Gmail this time.
Okay, let me look for Mr. Elliott. But while I'm doing this, I don't think
Look-
he's registered.
Look for Mike Rufo as well.
Okay, I don't think either of them registered for the meeting, but I'm double checking.
Okay.
We're fortunate that we have a lot of people who want to come to these meetings, so it's kind of a long list for me. Here's Linnea is coming in.
I got it.
Neither of them registered for the meeting.
Okay, Mike Rufo just registered.
Okay, I will approve that. Give me one moment. When we get everyone in here, I will some nice some basics on some things you need to do well in advance. Okay, let me go to here. Okay, I approved Mr. Rufo. I do not have a registration still for Mr. Elliott.
Okay.
Did Mr. Rufo come in yet?
I don't see him yet.
Okay, didn't know if I missed him. But while we're waiting for LNC members, and I see Mr. Rufo's coming in, please, I beg of you, register the minute the meeting notice gets put on the LNC list or that day. And immediately after registering, you should get a link. If you don't get a link within 5 minutes of registering, you know then there's a problem. So we're not doing this the day of the meeting. Get in touch with me and we will straighten it out. There shouldn't be any of this going on the day of the meeting. Okay, let's see.
Okay. I think right now the only person we're waiting on is Brian Elliott, and I did text him, but at this point, I kind of need to focus on
Yep,
the agenda and everything else that's going on. So, Madam Secretary, if you don't mind just kind of watching in the wings to see if you get a registration come through for him.
certainly.
Thank you.
And I'll
Um,
reshare my screen.
Great. I hate to have you doing so many things at once. All right. So here we go. Reminder, everyone, please register as soon as you can. If you're out and about when the link goes out and you're not able to get to your email, I understand. Just double check the morning of the meeting. Double check, go in and see if you can find the link. And then if not, at least get it by the morning. That way, our secretary doesn't have to scramble and do 5 things at once. Once we get started, okay, so let's look at our agenda here. It's a tiny little font. Okay, we've got everybody on. Let's go ahead and get to public comment. So here's how we do this. Oh, thank you. There we go. That new business previous notice. Okay, so go to the bottom of your screen where it says reactions. Click that little smiley face with a plus sign. If you'd like to make public comment, click raise your hand. We're going to give 2 minutes for public comment right now, but you got to have your hand raised. And I think at this point, the only person with their hand raised is Mr. Pat Ford. So Pat, whenever you're ready, take it away.
We've got a special message for Angela from the Libertarian Party of Worcester. We're toasting the holiday season. Everyone, congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I believe the next person we have up is Nathan Madden. Mr. Madden, go right ahead.
Hello, everybody. Nathan Madden from Arizona. I just want to give the chair a very well done. Congratulations. I know the labor was hard fought and, got him out. So congratulations.
Thank you very much. Okay. No more public comment on. And at this point, I'm going to turn it over to our treasurer, Todd Hagopian, with the assistance of our executive director, Lainey Houston. So they have worked really aggressively on the budget, going over every dollar they could possibly account for and figure out. There have been a couple of revisions of the budget that was approved by the executive committee, but as far as I know, nothing major. And I've gone over it with Ms. Houston, I think 3 times since our last meeting. So, Mr. Hagopian, if you are ready, please go ahead and take it away. And then at some point, Madam Secretary, it'll be easiest if Ms. Houston can share her screen, because we're going to be bouncing back and forth in an Excel spreadsheet from cell to cell. And it's just not going to be like realistic for her to ask you to go to, cell J6 and now scroll over to cell whatever.
Okay, what I'm going to do is I allowed multiple sharing. I'm adding her as a co-host.
He's a good boy.
Okay. Okay, so Mr. Hagopian, if you're ready, go right ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the starting point for today's discussion will be the budget that we approved at the XCOM meeting. That's how this works. So we walk in with the XCOM budget and we amend from there. I did post a series of motions that I would like to pass at the very beginning of this meeting to get us to where myself and the staff would like to start. There are some motions that are just naming motions. There are other motions where we went line by line, and the staff did a really good job of saying, no, we don't need 4,000 here, we need 2,000, or this staff member was double counted in this line item, and now we've got them in salary, so we took them out, and stuff like that. So most of the motions that I'm putting in place here at the very beginning have to do with that stuff. And then after that, we can move money around. But I do think it is important to pass this set of motions in its entirety. And then after that, if you would like to change one of the things that we did, you would just, and correct me if I'm wrong, Madam Secretary, you would just make a new motion to move X out of this and into that. Is that correct, Madam Secretary?
Move to reconsider, I believe.
Yeah, we would, if a motion passes in which we've already made a decision earlier this meeting, it would have to be a motion to reconsider, and that can only be moved by someone who was on the winning side.
Okay.
So I would suggest, if there's a motion that our treasurer is going to make that you are planning on revising later, vote yes for it so that you have reconsideration, right?
And
Can we
just so
can we
I understand the actual process there, Madam Secretary, if we moved, say, 18,000 from one bucket into another bucket, and later we wanted to move 10,000 back, that's not necessarily a reconsideration motion. That could just be a brand new motion if it's a different discussion. Is that accurate?
It depends on the context
Okay.
and how fussy everyone here wants to be. My
Okay.
attitude about the rules is, if nobody's rights are being violated and nobody's objecting, I don't think if we have any other parliamentarians in the room, just close your ears. I think as long as everybody's happy and nobody feels stomped on, that we do what's expedient.
Can we get a couple other volunteers who are willing to make motions to reconsider? Any other LNC members?
I have one thing that I would like, not with what he's doing, but one thing we want to handle it, but.
That's fine. Yeah, I saw your message about it. Okay, so
I imagine there'll probably be several motions throughout today, and I'm 100% okay with that. What I'm trying to do is get to the baseline of exactly where staff wants the budget first. And
Okay.
that caused a few things that we want to change right off the bat, and then we can start changing again from there. The LNC has the ability to change the budget. I just want to get to where the staff would like the budget
Okay.
first, if we can.
So I'll do it too, as long as the votes are not unanimous. I'll vote on it so that I can move to reconsider if I need to. So then I'll be your backup. And I think Pat Ford will as well. So that's good. Okay. So let's go ahead and move forward. Mr. Gopian, whenever you're ready.
Yes. So best way to do this, Madam Secretary, should I just motion for all of the changes that I submitted? Or how is the best way to do that?
I thought you had wanted to do them group by group. I mean, I
did
have them
not.
all.
But I could, yeah.
Let's do them group by group.
Okay. All right. So first
And
motion,
Real quick, sorry, Todd, would you like me to be sharing my screen at this point?
I think Madam Secretary has them on there. Did you have the one that you wanted to change? Is that why you're asking?
Yes, and I think what Angela was saying was she was asking for me to share my screen. Just want to make sure, you know, do you want me to do it this time or to wait?
Do you have this format on your screen so that I can read them?
Yep, exactly. Yep.
Okay. Yep, go ahead and share. You will have to, Madam Secretary, I believe there's one change here that will have to be committed to what you have. It's just a naming change.
Okay, just let me know and I will do that.
And they're highlighted in yellow for convenience there.
So it'd be pledged to recurring membership instead of monthly membership.
Correct.
And I am only seeing Madam Secretary's change or Madam Secretary's screen. Am I doing something wrong here?
Oh, I'm seeing both of them.
Let me see.
Oh, that's ideal if we can have both. But
Okay, see, I can flip back and forth. Okay. All right. Okay, so the first motion would be to make 4 naming changes. Change 4000-20 from membership to other membership. Change 4000-30 from recurring contribution pledge to recurring membership. Change 7000-20 from membership to other membership expense. And change 7000-30 from recurring contribution expense to recurring membership expense. Some of this is gap matching principle, others is just so that we understand what these are.
Second.
Thank you.
What about those other name changes, though, that were all part of that first grouping, Mr. Hagopian? I also had the 4,500 from candidate campaign.
Yeah, that's why I was gonna do the other one. Just can I add those to these? Let me pull up your screen real quick here. 1 second.
Yeah, I would think doing all the name changes
Yep.
as a group is most expedient.
Yep, sorry, I'm trying to get back to your.
Whatever is easiest, let's do that.
If I might, I believe that there's been a series of amendments proposed and those have gotten edited up until this point. So Todd, would you like to work from this baseline or do you want to make sure we're amending on top of what was sent on the list earlier today?
What she's talking about, okay, now I can see your screen, Madam Secretary. What she's talking about is a few others that I caught lady that were more than just adding a abbreviation, more than expanding out an abbreviation.
Okay, got it. Sorry. If we want to,
yeah, they needed a word added to it, so it's better to do it in an actual motion. So
Okay.
the additional ones were to change 7000-20 from membership to other membership. Oh, sorry, no, that one we just went through. The additional ones were change 4000-50 from campaign candidate support to and training revenue to campaign candidate support and training. Change 7000-80 from core services to core services expense, and change 8200 from professional services to professional services expense. There is a later motion that just said that we can expand upon any abbreviations that are in the budget to make things more cohesive. But these are the ones where words actually had to be added. Okay, sorry. Can we get a new second on this?
A second.
I have no comments on this. That's pretty straightforward. If I can get a call the question from somebody.
I don't think there's any debate, so I don't think we even need to. You just vote.
Madam Chair, you're muted.
There we go. Okay, any objections? If there's no objections, we're going to go to a vote, and I think this should probably be a roll call vote. I think most of the votes are going to be roll call votes today. So Madam Secretary, whenever you're ready.
Certainly, just 1 second. I'm just going to put this as, I'm gonna abbreviate it here as the name change motion. What? Wrong screen. 1 second. This is what I'm looking for. Want to duplicate that. Okay, so moved by Hagopian. Just give me 1 second. All right. Mr. Benner,
Yes.
Mr. Blankenship,
Yes.
Mr. Duque,
Yes.
Mr. Eklund,
Aye.
Ms. Eiler.
Yes.
I don't believe Mr. Elliott has entered.
Not yet. He's working on it.
Okay, Mr. Ford,
Aye.
Ms. Gabbard,
Yes.
Mr. Hagopian.
Yes,
I will vote yes. Mr. Nana,
Yes.
Mr. Nikela,
Yes.
Mr. Rufo,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Watkins.
Yes.
Madam Chair, it is 14-0-0.
I'm going to vote yes as well.
15-0-0.
Fantastic. Okay, the motion passes. All right, so that's taken care of. Let's move on to our next item of business. And that's going to be an overview of the budget as far as I can tell. At this point, we just passed everything, right?
Madam Chair. No, we had, they decided to do this in sections, so I've got about
Just
5 for
sections.
these.
Okay. Okay, go ahead. And I'm going to remind everyone, please register in advance because this is killing me to try to get you guys in and get everything to you while the meeting's going on. Okay, go ahead and do your next one.
Next motion is again fairly simple. We had forecasted bequests based on previous history. Come to find out that you cannot forecast because it is revenue. You also have to remove 6,000 of expense, which we have taken out of salary, bonus, sick, and vacation. Pretty straightforward.
Second.
Thank you. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Do we have any objections? Okay, hearing no objection, we're going to go to a roll call vote whenever our secretary is ready.
Okay, just 1 second. I'm going to duplicate this. Mr. Benner,
Yes.
Mr. Blankenship,
Yes.
Mr. Duque,
Yes.
Mr. Eklund,
Yes.
Ms. Eiler,
Yes.
Mr. Elliott. Not here. Mr. Ford,
Aye.
Ms. Gabbard,
Yes.
Mr. Hagopian.
Yes,
I will vote yes. Mr. Nana,
Yes.
Mr. Nikela,
Yes.
Mr. Rufo,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Watkins,
Yes.
Madam Chair, 1400.
Okay, I will vote yes.
Okay, 1500.
Okay, the motion passes. On to the next one.
Okay,
All right. You'll see a series of motions now that just involve removing contractor expense. This is not to say we won't have any contractor expense. We're just simplifying the budget and putting them into the expense categories that those contractors will be living in. So don't freak out about whether or not we're going to have contractors here. The motion is to reduce 7,000-70 by 75,000 for fundraising and membership contractor expense. Increase 7,000-10 by 64,000. Increase 7,000-30 by 11,000. So those three even out. Reduce 7,000-20, which is other membership expense. Increase 7,000-30, which is the new recurring membership, by 50,000. So those two match. And then remove 7,000-70 fundraising and membership contractor expense from the agenda or from the budget so that GL code no longer exists.
Second.
Yeah, second. I'm having trouble with trying to do a hand raise, Madam Chair, so if you would put me in line, I had a question.
You got it.
I just wanted to be clear, Mr. Hagopian, this is more for the benefit of the memberships. So this isn't any kind of reduction in staff. It's merely moving them from one category to another. I just want this to be perfectly clear to try to
Correct.
cut down on any social media confusion.
This gives the staff more flexibility. The staff was planning on doing $75,000 in fundraising contractors of some type. They can still do that. They just are doing it within different buckets. But now they could do 50 or they could do 100. They have just a lot more flexibility here to react to what they're seeing on the ground.
Thank you.
Any objections? Okay, let's go ahead and go to a roll call vote whenever our secretary is ready.
Mr. Benner,
Yes.
Mr. Blankenship,
Yes.
Mr. Duque,
Yes.
Mr. Eklund,
Aye.
Ms. Eiler.
Yes.
Is Mr. Elliott here? Mr. Ford,
Aye.
Ms. Gabbard,
Yes.
Mr. Hagopian?
Yes.
I will vote yes. Mr. Nana,
Yes.
Mr. Nikela,
Yes.
Mr. Rufo,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Watkins,
Yes.
Madam Chair, 1400.
Okay, I will vote yes.
Okay, Madam Chair, 1500.
Okay, great. The motion passes. On to the next one we go.
Same principle here. We are reducing 7,000-84, which is membership contractor, by 15,000. We are increasing the outreach general expense 7,000-81 by 15,000. And then we are removing the two contractor lines in 7,000, which are 7,082 and 7,084. Same principle as previous.
Seconded.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any questions on this one? Any objections? Okay, if not, let's go ahead and we'll go to a roll call vote when our secretary is ready.
Let me just renumber this ballot. Mr. Benner,
Yes.
Mr. Blankenship,
Yes.
Mr. Duque,
Yes.
Mr. Eklund,
Aye.
Ms. Eiler,
Yes.
Mr.
Bluebird.
Ford,
Aye.
Ms. Gabbard,
Yes.
Mr. Hagopian.
Yes.
I will vote yes. Mr. Nana,
Yes.
Mr. Nikela,
Yes.
Mr. Rufo,
Yes.
Mr. Smith? Mr. Smith?
I said yes. Did you get it? Hello?
Oh,
Can you
sorry.
not- can you hear me?
Mr. Watkins?
Yes.
Madam Chair, 1400.
Okay, I will vote yes.
Okay. And if the body will indulge me 1 second, just to put in the proper text here so I don't lose track of these motions.
Yep.
Okay.
All right, another easy one, reduced 8130 by 5300. This is postage and shipping. Increase 8140 by 5300. This is travel, meetings and meals expense. We just looked at, sorry.
Sorry, I moved it the wrong way. Sorry, I got it right now.
No, that's good. That's the end of the motion. I'll speak to it in a second.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hagopian.
Second question mark.
Second.
All I'll say here is that the staff looked at it. We had way too much in postage and too little in travel, so we moved it around.
Yep. Any questions? Okay, if there's no questions, no objections, let's go ahead and go to a roll call vote when our secretary is ready.
How would you characterize this, Mr. Hagopian? Would be,
I would say just shifting of admin resources.
okay. So I can keep track of these motions for minutes. 1 moment. Okay, Mr. Benner,
Yes.
Mr. Blankenship,
Yes.
Mr. Duque,
Yes.
Mr. Eklund,
Aye.
Ms. Eiler,
Yes, sorry for the delay.
no problem. Mr. Ford,
Aye.
Ms. Gabbard,
Yes.
Mr. Hagopian.
Yes.
I will vote yes. Mr. Nana,
Yes.
Mr. Nikela,
Yes.
Mr. Rufo,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Watkins.
Yes.
I'm assuming you're going to want to vote, Madam Chair. It's 14-0.
Yep, I'll vote yes.
Okay, it's 15-0-0.
Okay, motion passes. Thank you, everyone. On to the next one.
That's a little bit more complicated, so I'll talk to the motion after I say it. Reduce 8190 by 18,640. That's software, hardware, and other IT.
I
Reduce.
think you missed the one right above it.
Oh, sorry, I apologize. You are correct. Sorry, we are going to the storage one. Reduce 8170-60 by 3,400 and increase 7,000-81 by 3,400. I'll speak to it afterwards.
Second.
Okay, this is just storage associated with LP historical preservation. The rest of the expenses for that are in the outreach general expense. So we're just reapplying those expenses as they should be.
Okay, any questions? Any objections? Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Let's go to a roll call vote when our secretary is ready.
Moment. These remembering these motions as I keep duplicating them. It's copy of copy of copy. It gets
I
really
know.
fun.
Take your
So-
time. It's a little bit tedious. There's no
Move.
rush.
Moving storage expenses, Mr. Hagopian. Mr. Benner,
Pass.
Mr. Blankenship,
Yes.
Mr. Duque,
Yes.
Mr. Eklund,
Yes.
Ms. Eiler,
Yes.
Mr. Ford,
Yes.
Ms. Gabbard,
Yes.
Mr. Hagopian.
Yes.
I will vote yes. Mr. Nana,
Yes.
Mr. Nikela,
Yes.
Mr. Rufo,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Watkins,
Yes.
Mr. Benner,
Yes.
and Madam Chair.
I will vote yes.
Okay, so it is 15-0-0.
All right, motion passes. On to the next one.
This one has a few more moving parts. Reduce 8190 by 18,640. That is software, hardware, and other IT. Reduce 8110 by $2,000. That's office supplies, capital equipment. Reduce 8210-20 by 15,000. That is legal proactive. Reduce 8220 by 7,000. That is accounting. Reduce 8240 by 5,000. That is computer services. Reduce 8,300 by 11,000. That is depreciation. Increase 8005 by 58,400. That is salary, bonus, sick, and vacation admin. Increase 8070 by $240. That is other benefits, goodwill, and training. And I'll speak to it afterwards.
Second.
All right, there was, go ahead.
Yeah, I had a question as well, but I'll let you speak to it first.
Okay, so there were employees that were previously employee time and dollars were previously put into software, hardware, and other IT. We are actively pulling all of that time and dollars out of all the categories and putting them into the salary bucket. That's what we're doing here. Office supplies were overstated per Robert, so we took it out. Legal proactive, we took out to be prescribed specifically by the XCOM when something comes up. Analysis of our accounting contract showed that we had too much in there. Computer services was overstated by 5,000 per what we will have to spend this year versus last year. Analysis of our depreciation expense showed that next year will be lower than this year, so we've revised it. Most of this money was moved to salaries to make sure that headquarters has the money that they need to hire the people to hit our goals.
Okay. Actually, I'm going to ask if our executive director, Lainey Houston, has anything to add to assure anyone who might be nervous about the reduction in 8190.
Yes, let me just make sure I'm looking at the right line item there. So I think Todd covers it well here, just to say that across the budget, we're trying to do the best that we can to make sure things are accounted for in the right section. So any changes that you're seeing here are not reflecting a discontinuation of our current plans, simply reallocating things into the right category and reflecting our truly projected costs for next year. We're not looking at any kind of reduction, just moving stuff around and making sure things are accurate based on the expenditures we plan to spend next year.
Great. Madam Secretary?
Yes, my question was on I didn't understand the explanation for the legal proactive being reduced. I don't really even have a question because I didn't understand the explanation, but I'll express my concern is I think we're going to have quite a bit of legal proactive. And I seem to hear the explanation as being, we'll just add to that budget line when the XCOM approves legal action, but the XCOM kind of has to approve legal action based upon an existing budget line. So this seems like you'd have to have the LNC amend the budget before the XCOM could even authorize something. This is super concerning to me.
Okay, so I hear your concerns. I'm also a little bit concerned. I think I would put a pen on this one, and I will move to reconsider this item later once we get into discussions about this particular line item. Does that make everybody feel a little bit better? Because
Yes, for me, yes, as well.
I personally am going to be the one dealing with it, so I am going to take it upon myself to reconsider and deal with this particular item, because we're going to get pretty technical on this later on.
Well, that resolves my concern for right now, because I understand I don't want to break our treasurer's flow in this initial series of motions. I'd rather, let him, because he's got a vision, and then we could tweak it afterwards. But this is definitely something I'm going to be right with you, Madam Chair, on wanting to tweak.
I completely echo your concerns, and we're having an XCOM meeting right afterwards about it. So obviously we're going to have to do it. Okay, great. Okay, any other discussion, any other questions? Okay, if there's none, we're going to go to a roll call vote as soon as our secretary is ready.
Second, how would you generally categorize this, Mr. Treasurer?
Reallocation to labor expenses.
Okay. You always have all the nice fancy terminology. Okay, Mr. Benner,
Point of information, a yes vote would be to reconsider this later.
no, I'll let the chair explain it.
One more time.
The point of information is, would a yes vote cause us to reconsider this later?
Oh, a yes vote means anybody who votes yes can move to reconsider later. So the best thing to do if you want to reconsider it is for everyone to vote yes, and then we can all have that option.
Understood. I vote yes.
Okay, Mr. Blankenship,
Yes.
Mr. Duque,
Yes.
Mr. Eklund,
Yes.
Ms. Eiler,
Yes.
Mr. Ford,
Yes.
Ms. Gabbard,
Yes.
Mr. Hagopian.
Yes.
I will vote yes. Mr. Nana,
Yes.
Mr. Nikela,
Yes.
Mr. Rufo,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Watkins,
Yes.
Madam Chair.
I also vote yes.
Okay, it's 15-0-0.
Okay, the motion passes. On to the next one we go. Oh, Dustin, do you have a question? Dustin Nana?
Was that the last change for Mr. Hagopian? I'm just trying to get in line for after that.
There is one more. I do not know if it needs to be a motion. I will let Madam Secretary give me some guidance here. But it was basically that we would like the permission to update capitalization abbreviations, naming conventions, along with GL numbers after all this is done. This is typically how it's done, is that we can go back and make typo changes and GL code number changes once this is all finished. I do not know if this needs to be a motion.
I think to be safe, we should do a
Yeah.
motion to authorize the treasurer to do these things upon passage of a final budget.
Perfect. Okay, then I motion to update capitalization, abbreviation, naming conventions, and formatting to be consistent across sections. We will also make a final adjustment to GL codes once the final budget is passed, consistent with our bookkeeping practices. The treasurer and the operations manager and the executive director will agree on these changes prior to implementation.
Second,
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Do we have any questions on this one? Going once, going twice. Okay, if not, we'll go to a roll call vote when our secretary is ready.
this will be motion number 8, just one moment. Mr. Benner,
Yes.
Mr. Blankenship,
Yes.
Mr. Duque,
Yes.
Mr. Eklund,
Yes.
Ms. Eiler.
Yes.
Has Mr. Elliott entered the meeting? Okay, Mr.
No.
Okay, Mr. Ford,
Aye.
Ms. Gabbard,
Yes.
Mr. Hagopian.
Yes.
I will vote yes. Mr. Nana,
Oh, I was muted. Yes.
Mr. Nikela,
Yes.
Mr. Rufo,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Watkins,
Yes.
Okay, I wasn't sure if you wanted to vote on this one, Madam Chair, since it was non-substantive.
No, I'll abstain on this one. We've got
Okay,
enough that if you need to reconsider it, someone can.
yeah. Okay, I am now to a blank sheet. I have a feeling Mr. Nana's gonna make me work now.
Yes, I have a motion whenever that is appropriate.
Well, I mean, so here's what's gonna happen. Or what we should do is we should present the budget and actually hear from our treasurer and executive director. If you want to
That's
make a
fine, too.
motion, you can, but
No, that's
I
fine.
don't think, I think it's
I'm just-
rude to
No,
derail
it's
them.
fine. No, it's fine.
Okay.
I just want to be in line. That's all.
Okay. Okay, so Mr. Hagopian, whenever you're ready, we are ready to hear you start going through the budget and in the order that you and Ms. Houston have prepared.
And Madam Chair, I'm gonna stop my share to make it easy for all attention to be on their screen since there'll be no motions for a little while.
Got it. Okay, great. Thank you.
And I'll just say, just to make sure we, if anyone's catching that there's any discrepancies between what I've got on the screen here and what was just passed, feel free to flag it. I think there wouldn't be anything but words, name changes into GL codes. So just feel free to flag that if anyone's noticing anything there. Great.
Okay, I will go through this fairly quickly and then let Ms. Houston add anything that she would like to. Again, we had a few goals in this budget to deliver on our fundraising and our membership growth and our ballot access challenge for this year. In addition, we've taken a number of steps to make the budget easier to read, easier to maneuver, and more flexible for the staff to accomplish these goals. From a revenue standpoint, you will see that general fundraising and membership together, that is a change that is more accurate on how we should be budgeting. So general fundraising is 301,000. Other membership is everything except for monthly memberships is 400,000. Monthly memberships is 700,000, which is up significantly year over year because this will be a focus going forward. I've gone over that in the past, but essentially they're much more profitable for us and much more stable and easier to protect our cash flow. Ballot access and voter registration revenue, 250,000. Campaign candidate support and training revenue, 49,000. Building fund revenue restricted, 20,000. Legal fund revenue restricted, 3,000. Brings you to the 1,723 million of revenue, which is approximately $100 per person for our average number of members forecasted for next year, which is about what it has been the past several years. So that's how we came up with that number. If we go down, you then need to spend money to make money. So we have $104,000 in the general fundraising expense, $30,000 in the other membership expense, $120,000 in the recurring membership expense. Again, remember that is going to be a key focus of ours going forward. $1,000 in the building fundraising expense, $15,000 in the ballot access fundraising expense, $50,000 worth of credit card fees, core services, outreach. So core services is now a bucket that encompasses a lot of the small GL codes that we used to have. So just know that is basically Laney's political budget that you can talk to afterwards. Outreach and activism, general expense, $88,400. Specific candidate campaign support and training expense of $49,000. Ballot access petitioning expense of $200. Ballot access legal expense of $25. Ballot access lobbying expense of $25. And that equals a total of $387,400 for core services and $707,400 for total fundraising, membership, and program expenses. If you keep going, there is nothing for convention. All convention revenue and expenses will be booked next year, as was the case last time around. Salary and related expenses. Again, we've taken a lot of the salary that was kind of filtered throughout the budget and we've put it into the salary bucket now. $531,000 for salary, a variety of small expenses along the way, for your related expenses to that salary equals $613,840 for total salary and related expenses. If you go down to admin and overhead includes everything it takes to run the office, and total occupancy expenses along with your software, hardware, and other IT, which includes about half of your CRM expense. That comes to $151,760 for total admin and overhead expenses. If you go down further, professional services are things that we outsource to professionals to get done for us. Legal, we have 75,000, which is a significant increase year over year. Accounting, 18, FEC, consulting, 50. Computer services, which is the other part of CRM, 80, and other professional services, 3, brings it to $226,000 of outsourced professional services. Depreciation is 24 for total expenses of 1.723 million, which is a balanced budget.
Fantastic. Anything else that you'd like to add, Ms. Houston?
I would just like to say thank you so much to Todd and several members of staff for helping us get to a place where this budget not only allows us to accomplish the goals that we keep hearing from the administration, but also to be very flexible in the reality that we're trying to experiment, we're trying to learn, we're trying to grow. And this allows us to not only do that, but also to re-examine our progress throughout the year. There's lots and lots of rationales and detail that we can provide on several of these line items upon request. Especially in 2 areas. I know that we've been asked to prepare some additional detail, which is around the compensation content, which we can examine for the salary, that line item, as well as around software, and that includes like the 2 line items of 8240 computer services and 8190 software, hardware, and other IT. So yeah, thanks again for Todd for a lot of hard work in getting this to a really flexible place.
Okay, so if you can scroll back up towards the top, because I think we need to get into some details. I'm going to go through this kind of chunk by chunk and ask if people have questions. Does anyone have questions on the 4,000 line, fundraising, membership, and program revenue?
I do, Madam Chair.
Okay, now is a great time. And what I'd like to do is go through this piece by piece. There are going to be certain pieces that we're going to have to address in executive session. So we may have to come in and out of executive session. I apologize for that, but I think it's best if we go through it in the proper format, because that's the way that it's been prepared. It's a little bit more work, but this is quite frankly, like probably one of the most critical meetings of the year. So we should put in the work and be ready for it.
Mm-hmm.
My question is, and it's not going to be a motion I'm going to make at this meeting. If we decide we want to do this, I'll do it at the next one. If we were to institute what I had suggested everyone to consider very carefully, a give or get program for the LNC, is this where that revenue would go?
That's a fantastic question. Todd, I'd like to take this and let me know if you disagree with the way we'd approach this. What I want to emphasize to everyone for not only this question, but for lots and lots of the questions that are going to come up today is that we've got 3 different tools at least at our disposal when we think about the ways that we're making and spending money. One of those tools is this budget, which helps give guidelines on how we want to raise and spend. And then also it's really useful for purposes of accounting. We also have goals, which is a way that we motivate ourselves, and we might have ideally goals that are above and beyond the budget, or in the area of revenue, and then lower in the area of cost. And then third, we have metrics. So if we were to pursue that program, Madam Secretary, then we would align it to the proper GL code for tracking purposes. It might fit neatly into a category such as 4000-10, or it might fit across, various categories of 4010, 4020, 4030, so on and so forth. This is something that could be worked out later and would fall into this metrics category. So what that might look like is we decide as an organization, we want to measure progress, and we would be able to document that well above and beyond this budget without disrupting our accounting practices. Does that make sense?
It does, but I have one question, and this could just be where we streamlined the budget, and I'm just a bit of a old fart on the LNC. We used to have something called board solicitations, and that's where that would go. Has that been eliminated and rolled into this?
Yes.
Todd, go ahead.
Yes, that would be in 4000-10. What I think the strength of the way that this is laid out, Madam Secretary, is that let's say you wanted to do that program that you mentioned in just a general fundraising way, that could be a 4000-10. Let's say we had a tough ballot access fight and you wanted to implement that same thing and have everybody specifically go out and get ballot access donations, that could then go into 4000-40. So there's different ways that we can do it, but at the end of the day, yes, it would probably go into one of the 3 fundraising categories, which would be 4000-10, -40 or -50, whatever the motion determines. And then to Lainey's point, the important part is no matter what we do, we can always measure things like that outside of the budget, and they don't need to become their own GL code, making the budget kind of crazy as things get added and added throughout the year. So we have many tracking tools where we can follow a program like that without adding our own GL code, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I just have one additional question, and I'm sorry, and for Madam Chair's benefit, Brian just did register, and I'm going to be
Okay, thank you.
taking care of him. The other thing is, it's possible to, I don't think this has been the practice of past LNCs, but I think I might like this better. If I did make such a motion next meeting for a give or get, we don't really have to adjust the budget. We could adjust the budget if we see the revenue increase, rather than saying, okay, we've all just promised to raise $20,000, so we're going to amend the budget now. Rather count the eggs once the chickens lay them.
If I'll jump in and take that, and Todd, keep me honest. Exactly. In fact, what we're trying to do with this budget is to give not only staff, but the board the opportunity to make motions to fit within categories so we can tackle strategic objectives. And then this just allows us to align where we would spend it out of. And in the case of revenue, really revenue just comes in within these buckets. That's really all we're saying. And we can't really control that. We can't pass a motion to have revenue, right? We'll get it when we earn it from people that we're collecting it from. So basically, you could pass that motion, and then we just track it however we think is the best way to do it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would say that if a motion such as that passed, we would say which GL code the money would go into, but we would not pass a subsequent expense motion until that revenue is proved to be truly incremental.
Any other questions regarding that or regarding this chunk of the budget? Okay. If not, let's go down to the next section, which is fundraising and membership. Oh,
Sorry, here.
We were there, right? What was right under 4,000?
Oh, I'm sorry. You're referring to revenue. Yeah, after 4,000, we have 4,100, which is restricted project revenue.
Okay, so let's just get an explanation of what we're looking at for everyone.
Yeah, I would just urge people not to overthink this section. This is just based on historicals. So we either get it or we don't. I would not mess with this section unless you have a reason to, I guess.
Okay, any questions on this one?
I am so sorry. I do have a question.
Yeah.
I understand it's based on historicals, but is it reasonable with a paid off building to expect revenue to a building fund?
There are things like a roof.
Yeah.
There are
Okay.
other things that we could potentially be asking for money for going forward.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I'll also mention here that 4100-10 because it says building fund doesn't mean the building in Alexandria, Virginia. It means any building expenses. So, or sorry, you know, we could attribute that fund to an additional real estate project or different real estate projects. And we have some roof and painting proposals that have been set forth.
All right. Any other questions? Okay, if not, let's go down to the next chunk. Let's see here, what's under 4,100?
Convention 4,200.
Okay.
It's nice and easy. It's 0.
Okay, and everything below that. Okay, 0, 0, 0. Okay, and now let's go on down. What's the next? Here we've got expense.
Yeah, so our next section becomes then the expenses side of the budget. So the two areas we can fit on the screen here are the fundraising, membership and program expenses, and convention.
Okay, do we have questions on this?
Am I just the problem child with questions?
Oh, no,
So
you're
these are
fine.
great, Karen Ann. Thank you.
We anticipated that there would be questions on every single section, so that's
Okay.
fine.
This, people have been on the LNC with me before are now just gonna laugh. Where does LP News fall in here?
So LP News was traditionally in the membership communications bucket, which was 7,000-83, which has now gone to 0. And those dollars had moved to general fundraising expense, I believe, maybe recurring membership expense. I'll have to go back and look at the motion. We have choices. Again, this was built with maximum flexibility. So if the staff wants to continue with LP News, it could come out of either 7,000-81 outreach and activism general expenses, or if they decide it's a fundraising activity that only goes to, say, recurring membership, it could come out of 7,000-30, or if it went to everybody, it could come out of 7,000-10. But this was built with maximum flexibility so that they can make that decision.
Okay, this is kind of a bit of a hot potato, which some newer LNC members might not be as aware of. But this is a source of angst. And I'm one of the people who are very angsty about it, so I'm not being dismissive of people who are, because I'm one of them. I get very nervous about the idea of staff's going to decide whether or not we're going to put out LP News. I do think that is an LNC level decision. And if it's going to require a motion at our January meeting, that's fine. Is there some kind of decision or commitment that we're going to put out LP News next year in print copy?
Oh, in print. Ms. Houston.
Yeah, so we certainly have proposals that we could share with the committee, but like Todd said, I know we have plans this year to do a year in review and digitally communicate to all of our members that, you know, what's going on with what we've been doing here at the organization. That's sort of the purpose of LP News. But then we also want to use some of that time to make development packets for donors above a certain threshold in print. I think what's tricky here is determining what's the threshold, right? For making sure that you're using your print expenses on a high enough threshold and using your digital channels for lower thresholds. So that's the current plan with LP News. Right now, we have seen data to the contrary, that people prefer physical versions of LP News or Pledge News. We ran an experiment earlier this year, which I could go into.
Electronic? Do you mean electronic or physical?
Forgive me. Yes. So we have digital channels versus mailed, physical channels, and mailing someone something and having a paper document versus sending them something either on a website or an email or text and things like that. We ran an experiment and that yielded very little interest in physical mailers. So that's kind of been our guidepost for what we can do to spend members' money the wisest. Does that answer your question?
Did you send out a survey?
Yeah, so what we did is we included a survey in a physical mailer so that we could see what the interest was in Pledge News, how we could improve it. And we made it actually pretty broad to ask people about the member benefits that they enjoyed, and some really stark numbers I want to share from that to show, you know, just how little interest we got in physical mailers. Is I believe we had, you know, many hundreds of people getting this. I believe it was about a circulation of 3,000, and we only got, I want to say, 7 responses to this survey, and 4 of them advocated for keeping, you know, Pledge News. So, and shouldn't say Pledge News, mailers of any kind, right? So we did circulate this in our most recent mailer that we sent out, and that was the result. So based on that, the recommendation from staff, and of course we could have additional discussion on it, is that we could, have better relationships with donors. But the good news is this budget gives us the flexibility to decide that down the line, which is a great way we should be handling a lot of decisions which require further strategic discussion.
The one thing I'll add to that is just for everything that we talk about going forward, that LP News costs over $20,000. When you do a typical spend in fundraising, you are targeting to get 3 to 5 times your money back. So when we are talking about a $20,000 budget item, what we're really talking about is giving up $60,000 to $100,000 in fundraising. If we put those dollars to a different use.
Sorry, I just had to mute.
And Todd, I'm not sure if you're finished. I can add to that as well.
I was finished. Thank you.
Go ahead, Lee.
Oh yeah, and I was going to say, additionally, we haven't done a quantitative survey to bear this out, but I've received dozens of anecdotal requests from members saying, please don't spend my money on LP News, you know, please don't spend my money on physical items. Like, I want to be informed about the party, but I want it to be done in the cheapest way possible. So what we're trying to do next year is make sure we can do this in the way that's going to give us the best return on your experience as a member, while still giving you the benefit that you're knowing what's going on in the party. We're having that morale and that excitement and that informative channel.
I believe Pat Ford has his hand raised.
I do, Madam Chair. In conversations or exchanges with Mr. Treasurer in the run-up to this meeting, I had mentioned at the LNC, I should say, the actual purely budget executive committee meeting, that it was very important to me that we have a separate budget for affiliate support. Affiliate support is a standing committee, and accordingly, there are going to be expenses as this committee is newly renewed. Ms. Linnea's effort in particular has got the opportunity to be a revenue positive activity, and that there's real potential in new members to the Libertarian Party through the campus outreaches that are already starting to take place, and B, quite frankly, the ability to get volunteers for the next election cycle, a clear goal of that activity, which will then, of course, save us on ballot access or save us on virtually everything. It's a hallmark of any business, and we are attempting to turn this into a business within a business, that there be a budget and that there be funds accounted for that. So accordingly, I'm asking that $17,500 be moved from the activism, if you will, line item to a newly created sub-line item, in any context that, or however the structure is that Mr. Treasurer prefers and the professional staff prefers in terms of method of accounting, that will be dedicated to affiliate support this year coming up. We will be actively engaged in fundraising, understanding that amount will be at first work to compensate the money allocated to the affiliate support committee. So I'd like to make it, I don't know if this calls for a formal motion at this moment. Maybe you can inform me.
That does call for a formal motion. Definitely. And which line item are you asking it be moved from?
Mr. Treasurer had indicated that it would be appropriate to move that from outreach and activism general expense, if I understand his remarks correctly.
Correct.
Okay. So you want a separate line item for affiliate support?
Yes, right. again, in a matter, it's more important that the accountability and the separation of funds be in place. The method in which Mr. Treasurer and the professional staff wishes to account for it is less important than having accountability and funds dedicated to the process. I just want to point out that this represents slightly less than 1%.
Okay, so it's been moved. It would need a second.
Point of information, Madam Chair.
Yes.
Would it be appropriate for the chair to ask that all the budget motions be done after we've gone through the budget? Because this is going to be
yeah.
super confusing if we
I think
do it
so,
this way.
because I mean, I don't want to mess up anyone's chances, but this is going to basically wreck everything that we're trying to show you at this point.
And Dustin already asked to be first, and I think this
He
is
did.
also kind of jumping over Dustin.
Yeah.
Madam Chair, I'm happy to work with the committee this afternoon and whichever manager is more efficient.
Okay, so Madam Secretary, if you don't mind, if you can keep kind of like a little list on
Yep.
the side. Great. So we got Dustin Nana who wants a motion, and then Pat Ford's going to be right behind him. Okay, we got you, Pat. Okay, so then let's keep going.
I had my
Wherever-
hand up again. I am
Okay.
so sorry on this.
Yeah, no,
And
that's fine.
just fair warning, I'm not going to derail this budget meeting over LP News. Anyone who's an LNC watcher knows that I lose my frickin' mind over LP News every single budget meeting. I want to put this in the most polite way possible, but I think we're very dismissive of our older members who prefer still paper copies. And I keep hearing from a lot of the more younger members, and I can appreciate the generational gap here. But the fact is some of our bigger donors are the older members. And historically, we have always made more from the expense of LP News from the older members who might be dwindling in numbers. But as long as LP News mailing out physical copies makes more than it costs, I am going to fight like a tiger for that. This has always been one of my pet things, but I'm not going to derail this meeting with this. I'm going to be putting it on the January agenda, just fair warning. But to piggyback on Pat, unless Mr. Hagopian convinces me otherwise, I agree with Pat that committees that are empowered committees that have budgets should be separated out. And I do think the historical committee's budget, which is extraordinarily minor, but I do think it needs to be a separate line item so that we're accountable for it. And I have to be honest with you, I have a deep distrust of all LNCs, including our own. And I think that's healthy for people to have a deep distrust of leadership. And I don't want next budget to come along and all of a sudden there's no budget for LPDIA because it wasn't the historical project because it wasn't separated out here. This has been it's not an unreasonable fear. So I'm probably going to have a similar motion to Mr. Ford. I think every empowered committee that has a budget should be separated out and not swallowed in a larger thing.
And I don't want to speak out of turn, so I do have some answers to Madam Secretary there, but let me know if I should speak now or wait for various hands to go through first.
I think if you want to give a little bit of information, that's great, and then we should just move along.
Great. So what I want to convey is that passing the budget as is allows us to leverage activism and outreach tools as well as fundraising tools as we see fit with LP News expense for specifically digital copies, which is where the majority of the physical copies is where the majority of the expense comes from. I want to quickly touch on a point from Ms. Harlos, which is that as long as LP News still makes more money than it loses, I have been working here 4 months and I failed to find any evidence of that. It's not that it doesn't exist, is that the staff does not have evidence that this makes money. So what I'd love to do is do that analysis correctly, come back and generate that for the committee so everyone can make an informed decision. It's possible we'll find that it absolutely does. bear an ROI. It's possible we find that it doesn't, but we'd have to do the analysis to do that. In my tenure, at least, I have not seen any evidence to prove that fact. And it's possible it exists, but I don't know of the analysis. So would love to get any and all data. Thank you to our staff and to Todd, who worked very hard on analyzing direct mail for fundraising in separate categories. And we found areas where it does indeed have ROI and where it doesn't have ROI. And we've made adjustments accordingly.
Okay, thank you very much. If there's no further questions on this particular chunk of the budget, let's keep moving down the line. So what's the next one?
Okay, so I suppose at this time, just to confirm, should I move down to convention, or did anyone have any other sections?
Okay, we just wrapped, yeah, so convention, okay, so convention I think is pretty clear. We're not spending money on it this year, it's getting spent next year, is that correct?
Correct. And I've spoken with the convention committee chair, and we don't anticipate any early expenditures now in order.
Okay, great. So as long as you've cleared that with him.
Mhm.
Okay, so then the next one is going to be the 8,000 line, which is salary and related expenses. And so are we ready to do that? Okay, so if we do we have questions on it? Because if we have questions, I'm going to need to move for us to go into executive session.
I'm sorry, I zoned out a second. What was that,
That's
Madam
okay.
Chair?
We're looking at the 8,000 line item, salary and related expenses. And if there's questions on that, which I anticipate there are, we're going to need to go into executive session. And it's okay that there are questions. That's
But would it be possible maybe we skip over that, go through the rest, and then come back to it? I'm trying to jerk the chains of the gallery as little as possible.
I think probably not, honestly. I think we probably need to go in order, because there are things that this is going to inform us of some other things later when we have to go into executive session. And I can't talk about it in detail because I have to talk about it in executive session. I know it's so annoying and I apologize.
If I'm the only one with questions, I'm not going to move for executive session.
Okay, anybody else have questions? Because it is not my intention to gatekeep any information from you, and we're ready to like really dig in. Okay. Okay, if there's nothing, we can go down. What's below 8,000?
Next, we have admin and overhead expense.
Okay. So do we need to go into executive session to discuss any element of this?
Depending on the questions, yes, I presume people might have questions, especially on
Okay.
hardware and other.
Okay, so why don't we just open it up for questions, and then if there's anything that where we start to get uncomfortable, we're naming names, we're discussing staff, we're going to go into executive session. Okay, and if there's no questions, Todd or Lainey, why don't you just give us a little bit of information on what we're looking at?
Yeah, let me try to tackle this, and Todd, feel free to jump in. So your administrative and overhead expense section is basically the area of the budget where we talk about running the business. We also have, a bunch of things coming up under professional services, which are kind of like overhead, but instead of being, for tools or things that you're buying, it tends to be, they have a whole bunch of fees associated with running our office and running the digital elements of our business. And a huge portion of that is going to be our software, hardware, and other IT expense. So pretty much any software that we spend here, which is administrative and like very facilitative in nature, that gets allocated here. And then a lot of that investment also comes in at the talent level. So you can think of a lot of times we're putting licenses and fees, you know, in here, or equipment in here, things for like servers and so on and so forth, versus if we're paying for improvements or hours, you know, to someone, that would either go under salary, or it would go under the, you know, more of a contractor capacity under professional services. So that's kind of a corresponding line item to this other one. But that's the main overview. Are there any other questions around admin and overhead expense? And it
Okay,
looked like Donovan had one.
go ahead.
Yes, I just wanted to make sure that in line with salaries being dedicated to salary and not pushed off into other line items, can you detail what 8140, the travel, meetings and meals is compared to what we would do with staff and that relationship?
Yes, let me see if I understand your question correctly. Essentially, travel, meetings and meals, that's set aside for travel of the staff or pertinent board members if need be. And this is really, you know, the main area you're going to get your expenses here are if we need to send people around the country for our quarterly board meetings or for other administrative things we might do. You know, we might also be allocating travel here from fundraising. I want to make sure that we're doing that correctly, whether it should be in fundraising or here. But the purpose of this is just to move people around the country. And I've worked with Robert to understand what that can typically cost. And we're budgeting, you know, essentially 4 board meetings and a little bit of buffer to be able to do that. That answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Great.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, if there's no other questions, let's scroll on down to the next chunk of the budget. Got
Great.
admin, and then we've got professional services.
Yeah, so next up is 8200 professional services. I mean, it's fairly straightforward, so would love to entertain any questions on this at this time. Happy to give another overview.
Okay, if there's nothing, let's go to
Mr. Pankey had his hand raised. I don't know
That
if
was
he.
from the previous question.
Okay, I do, Madam Chair. So, is there someone I should be keeping on my little list here that's going to be moving to make adjustments to that legal proactive line?
you can put me.
Okay. Thank you.
You got it. Okay, any other questions on professional services?
Can I just get a quick clarification of the difference between computer services under ProServe versus what we have under software, hardware, and other IT for admin expenses?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me give 2 examples of, you know, the types of expenses that would go underneath there. So 8190 is that software line in administrative, and sorry, we can't group them together. We would if that was a good accounting principle. That is a place where we would spend money on, you know, software, right? Or server costs or things like that. You're essentially giving money to a company or a firm for a good, or like a, you know, software as a service. So true software. This is also the place that we spend all of our productivity suite money. If we buy computers for the staff, things like that, that's why hardware is in there as well. Versus in computer services 8240, that's where you would have things like working with a contractor to build, you know, invest in, you know, writing code or making edits or operating our computer services style stuff, such as the CRM, or this could be, you know, any other computer services that we would need to do. That's kind of, you know, how we do it. So essentially, as a simple way to think about it is the top line is really more about software and stuff, and then the bottom one is more about contractor computer services. And then keep in mind, there's a third area we spend money on this, which is up in salary. You don't see the breakout because that's not how you write that salary macro section. Todd, is there anything you would want to add there?
The only thing I would say is that this is one change from budget to budget, is that the affiliate support contractor in the past is now represented. Contractor was focused almost exclusively on the IT portion. So we have moved them down to where we consider the appropriate bucket.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, if there's no other questions,
I
We're gonna-
actually,
Yeah.
are we on the tab that says with Todd's amendment? Are we, I'm just curious, we're on the right tab that we're looking at here at the
Yep,
bottom?
this is-
Okay,
these
okay, I
are
just,
just-
I got confused.
Yeah, no worries. Sorry. And these are exactly the same. This one just, I
Got
cleared
you, got
that
you, got
amendment.
you.
Yep. So I assume at some point we'll pass this tab essentially and it doesn't need the amendments on it.
Okay, any other questions? All right, so we were on professional services. Now we're going to go to depreciation expense. What is depreciation expense?
Okay, Todd, do you want to tackle this one or I can?
Yeah, I'm not going to go deep into it. There's a number of things that get depreciated that we buy, including equipment and other things. This is laid out by accounting principles. I had in there something like 35,000, which is what we'll do this year. When I went over it with Robert and Laney, there are a few things that will fall off of the depreciation schedule. So this is already prescribed. 24 is the correct number.
Okay, any questions on this? You guys are so quiet. Okay, what's below this? We got total expenses.
Yeah, that's total expenses. So I think all that we can keep repeating is this is a balanced budget. 1.723 million matches revenue of 1.723 million. So pretty straightforward. I did also want to ask if before we moved into any amendments or additional questions that might require going into executive session, if we could just make a clarification on what we're voting on today, because I think that would be really helpful. And I know that a number of us have been trying to navigate the right way to approach this year. It's my understanding that former LNC boards have passed, they've gone, they've made motions and amendments that are line item by line item using this version of the budget. So this format that you're looking here, whereas they've also passed statements of operations. So just to clear up any confusion, the more detailed version of this is passing all of these codes and passing this version of the format of the way you can arrange our financial information. So what we're doing today is voting on the proposed budget as opposed to the statement of operations. There's been a lot of work done here to clean things up and simplify, but in the future, we may want to return to voting on the statement of operations because there's been a little bit of confusion in the past, from various different ways that it's gotten done. So Todd, is there anything you want to add there? Or Angela, did you want to add anything? I just don't want to, I want everyone to be clear on what we're voting on this year versus, what we might want to do in future years.
Basically what Laney is saying is things have been done different ways in different years. We are choosing to go the most transparent path this year.
Mm-hmm.
Can you define statement of operations? Or I think I understand what you mean from past years, but I'm not sure everyone does.
Statement of operations, typically you will just approve the major GL codes and not the minor GL codes underneath them.
Okay, gotcha.
Yep, just clarification. Any other questions on that particular clarification? So we've been through the whole budget and we're going to have a handful of motions that are in queue. Are we ready to go to that, or is there anything else before we jump into it? I think we're ready for motions, and first in line is Mr. Dustin Nana.
Could you please scroll down to 8110 so I can get the totals correct?
Yep, 1 second.
And I will start to reshare my screen since we will now have motions again.
Or 8190, right? If I said it wrong.
Yep, no worries here. I'll show both. I'm assuming you want this one, right?
And then whenever you're ready, Mrs. Secretary.
I am ready.
Okay, so I would like to make a motion to amend line 8190, reducing it by 25,000, adding new line 819010.
Oh, wait,
for
slow
the
down,
bridge-
please, Mr. Nana. Move
Oh,
to
sure.
amend line 8190, reducing it by how much?
25,000,
Uh-huh.
and then inserting new line 819010 for the Civi CRM for $25,000.
For how much?
25. So it's a lateral move. It should equal out.
And just to be technical about that, if you're intending to split that, I believe how that has to work is you also have to account for not that amount too. Does that make sense? So you need, if you're proposing having subcategories, you need to have them equal each other in the sum. Does that make sense? As we have here, for example, with occupancy expenses.
Yeah, I've moved.
Software, hardware, and other IT other bucket is what she's saying for the remainder.
Right.
But
So I'm taking 25 out of that, adding new line 819010 underneath it for 25. So
Yeah,
it should be.
it
it
balances.
equals out.
You would also need an additional line.
Okay, so let me just, Karen Ann, there would have to be an 8190-20 other for the remainder. Because as soon as you sub GL it needs to equal the major.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Then
Oh.
yes, yeah, sure. Yeah, that makes sense.
Like, yeah, 31,360 is
So
that.
also, yeah, okay. Then also inserting 819020 other for the remainder, which would be 31,000, and then the cursor's over it, 31,500, I think. Or 31,360.
Mhm.
And then whenever you're ready, I can speak to my motion.
Well, I'll second it.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded. Okay, go right ahead and speak to your motion.
I think the Civi CRM is a crucial a crucial service that we provide to states. I think it's important that we ensure the states that this is a project that'll be continuing at least through the end of this coming calendar year. This will give the assurance that I think folks will need that this project is not going anywhere, at least in the short term, so that people feel confident and that they don't have to go shop around for a CRM if they're using our national CRM.
Okay, do we have a handful of questions? I'm gonna also have some questions. At some point, I think we may need to go into executive session to discuss some answers to questions, but let's just sort of take it as it goes. Ms. Harlows, I think your hand is up first.
I believe Mr. Agopian's was up before mine.
Okay, Mr. Hagopian, go right ahead.
This bucket is for the software, hardware, and other IT, not for labor expense and or contracting. Can I ask what the $25,000 will be used for?
It would be used for maintenance of the CRM, any costs we would incur there, and also any features we want to add, or any costs we also incur if we have to pay somebody that's not currently. Well, I mean, I guess it wouldn't count that, but it's just it's maintenance and feature increasing for the CRM essentially.
So the follow-up question to Lainey would be, how much of that did we spend this year, if we have that number?
Yeah, so at some point, we may need to go into executive session to discuss this. What I want to just flag straight off the bat is you will be able to spend money on feature increases in this bucket. The majority of software expense comes from a person who's a software engineer working on that and building those feature integrations. The area where we would add investment would be in operations or in buying new plugins, things like that. It wouldn't be like that will be the only way you could get feature additions through here. So just if the intent is feature investment, that should be addressed through 8240 or salary.
The intent is to make sure the CRM cannot go anywhere this year, period, point blank. That is the intent. So
When you say this year, are you talking about December or are you talking about next year? I wanna
I'm
make sure
talking about for this entire calendar year coming up,
Got it.
2023.
Okay. Got it. Okay, who's next in queue?
I believe
Ms.
I am,
Harless?
Madam. Yeah.
Okay, go right ahead. Everybody else, please stay muted.
Okay, yeah, there's a lot of background noise. Okay, thank you. I concur with everything Mr. Nana said. If there's a better way in the budget to do this, I'm certainly open to hearing it. But what I want, I think is what he wants, is we want a budget line that specifically mentions the Civi CRM. If it's the salary for the support person for that, then maybe it needs to be specifically mentioned there. But there are people in the party who want to see a dedication to Civi CRM and our budget. And I, as an officer of this party, want to see a dedication to Civi CRM and our budget. I'm very open to the best way to accomplish this. Perhaps Mr. Nana's motion isn't the best way, but unless there's another alternative, I'm going to be voting for this motion.
Okay. So I'm going to put myself in queue because I am going to be suggesting we go into executive session so we can make a fully informed decision. But Mr. Hagopian, go ahead, and then Mr. Ford, and then I'm going to make that motion.
Yeah, the reason I asked the question I did is because we don't want to take an amount of money and put it towards something if that's not the amount of money it costs. So what I'm saying is there's probably two appropriate ways of doing this if we wanted to do it. One, you would take the actual contractor who we pay currently to do CRM and does 99% of the work on it, and you would break that out of 8240, or you would do what's actually meant to be done, in my opinion, which is the XCOM can appropriate funds from the budget. So you pass this budget as is, and then the XCOM later appropriates funds specifically for the CRM, so as not to constantly add GL codes into the budget for individual projects. That is what I would suggest. But either way, I would say that this is the wrong GL code and the amount doesn't have an actual reason behind it. And for that reason, I would urge you guys to vote no on this motion.
Yeah, I want to discuss the salary elements of it, and so we will get there. Mr. Ford? Mr. Ford? Okay. I don't hear from Pat Ford. So
Well, there is that better?
yes.
Okay, sorry about that. So anyway, my mantra for this meeting is going to be is that sub-accounts breed accountability. I don't pretend to have anywhere near the experience of Mr. Hagopian, and I have tremendous respect for his financial acumen, and I mean that sincerely. I am, however, a degreed accountant who spent time in the Big Eight, and so I have more than a passing familiarity of this. I'm not sure how people can be expected to manage. This is a global question, more rhetorical in nature. Be expected to manage situations without a fundamental budget. The entire purpose of this meeting and a budget, to me, is to hand over accountability and/or funds to different operations organizations within the Libertarian National Party and execute upon them. We have to trust ourselves to, in a sense, give people the room to succeed or fail on their own right. There are clearly ways that issues can be drawn back, but the notion of having to go to the well every time that we need money or not, to me, defeats the very purpose of having a budget. So I'm rising in support of this and virtually anything that incorporates and further defines a $1.7 million budget. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ford. Okay, so I'm going to move for us to go into executive session to discuss more details regarding Mr. Nana's motion, specifically the amounts that he wants to allocate.
Madam Chair, would it be possible for me to speak once before your motion?
Sure.
I just want to say that in respectful disagreement to Mr. Hagopian about the executive committee that the proper do some kind of allocation. Managing the LNC via executive committee is something that has been done in many LNCs in the past. Members view it with suspicion. I don't think that's the role of the executive committee. The executive committee has very limited functions within our policy manual and for emergency purposes. It is the full LNC that was elected by the body, not some sub elite. And there's no regionals on the executive committee, and it's the regionals that have the most invested in making sure their state's voices are heard on the CRM. So I just wanted to voice strong disagreement with that approach.
Thank you, Ms. Harless. Okay, so I've moved
Madam-
for us to go
Madam-
into executive session so that we can discuss this a little in open detail.
Madam Chair, point of order, can we, and for purely selfish reasons, I'd love 10 minutes to actually speak with the Libertarian Party of Worcester, Massachusetts. Can we allocate 10 to 12 minutes or so for a break?
Sure, I think that it's reasonable for us to take a break. Is there a second to my motion?
One moment, it needs a little bit more detail, Madam Chair. That needs a bylaws defined reason for executive session. So is it because we're discussing salary?
We are discussing salary of staff. and
Implications, okay.
Yes. And potentially contracts.
Salary and contract implications of the NANA motion, okay. Just wanted us to be compliant with our bylaws.
Yep, you got it.
I'll second your motion, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Okay, any objections into going into executive session with the caveat that we're also going in with our executive director because she's got a lot of the information we need to make this informed discussion.
And if I may, I would also like to request our CTO, who's here as well, to be able to join us. Up to you if you think that's possible.
Are there any objections to it? I forgot he did do actually a lot of analysis on this in the last week. Okay, going once, going twice. Okay, if there's no objections, we're going to go into executive session and we will also stand at ease for 10 minutes. Okay, so our secretary will work on splitting everyone up. Let's reconvene at 4 after.
And I will make Mr. Kraus a co-host to manage the room in our absence the way we did before. And I'll try to get everyone into executive session.
Thank you.
Okay, it looks like Dave Benner didn't get. Are you using a different email address, Dave, than you gave me to sign up? Oh, I'm just throwing him in there. I'll figure that out with him later. I need to put Laney into executive session. And I don't see Andy Book of, is he here in the room? Yeah. Let me just find you on my list. Oh, interesting. Zoom just added a new feature where someone from executive session can broadcast their voice to all the rooms like the voice of God. Okay. All right. Are there any LNC members left in this room? It doesn't Oh,
Carrie, I live
Carrie.
here.
I can't, oh, let me see. I think I can assign you. Hold on. I've got a beach ball again. One moment. Let me just let my computer decide it's done thinking and I'll put you in as well.
Thank you. Sorry for being trouble. I'm in Sacramento for a skate party meeting and I'm flying home. So I'm just trying to stay connected however I can.
Yeah, no problem. My computer just keeps beach balling. I think I got to bring it into the Apple store.
Or stay out here.
I would say for this one to stay out here because it wasn't included in the motion. I don't anticipate this will be very long. This was Chase, right?
Yes.
Yeah, because that wasn't in the motion. So yeah, if you don't mind hanging out here, I apologize. It's going to be very similar to the the executive session before. I don't anticipate this one will be very long.
Okay, sounds good.
And to the New Mexico people that are here, the executive session for the executive committee that you were invited to, that's going to be at the end of the meeting. So just wanted to let you guys know that. All right, I'm going to be joining them over there. Richard and Robert and several people here can reach me by PM if I'm needed. Just let me know and I will see you guys in a bit. Thank you.
I just wanna be clear.
I'm going to stop this recording here.
CRM and be able to see who has who you've already been in contact with in the various ways.
Hey,
including
everyone.
going door to door.
Thank you, Evan.
Yep.
I have
We are back.
I have a favor to ask either the chair or the gallery. I neglected to note when we went into executive session. Does anyone I'll be able to figure it out from timestamps on the video, but does anyone in the room have a good sense of that?
I believe it was 4:58 Eastern time.
Okay. And I keep doing everything in Western. I mean, so you said, yeah, that sounds about right. Thank you so much, Evan.
Okay. Dustin, are you still on the call?
Yes, for a very short period of time. So if we can get to this vote, that would be excellent.
Okay. Did you want to make an amendment?
I'm trying to run around and do multiple things. I don't know the exact wording for it, but sure, yes,
Okay.
I would move to amend in the way that we discussed in executive session. If somebody can help me complete that motion.
The way I think it would be, though I'd need to, because I got the beach ball, Todd Orlaney's
Proviso.
assistance in the budget line that we wanted to add a proviso to, but I would move to substitute Mr. Nana's motion with a motion that says to add a proviso to the budget that says that budget line, whatever that line is for the support services, is intended for CVCRM support.
Okay. Does it have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Hagopian.
Could
Okay.
you give me the budget line, please, Mr. Hagopian?
8240.
And if that wording on the screen is acceptable, I put that, I'm moved to substitute.
We need to see your screen. I believe
Oh.
we're still viewing
Yeah,
a
one
different
second.
screen.
Yeah, Lainey will need to stop her share.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I
Lainey's
can do that.
the screen.
And here's mine. In 1 second. Okay, so I put move to substitute the Nana motion to add a proviso to budget line 8240 that it is intended for services to support CVCRM.
Yes, that's correct.
All right, so it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Okay, if there's no discussion, we need to go to a vote. Madam Secretary, whenever you're ready, we can do a roll call vote.
Madam Chair, I would suggest that first we see if there's an objection to, because this is like an amendment. And then it would
That's
make the substitute the main motion and then do
That's-
a roll call vote on the main motion.
Fair enough. Okay, do we have any objections? Going once, going twice. Nothing. Okay, hearing no objections. The substitute motion becomes the main motion.
Yeah, okay, now I'll do that roll call. Let
Okay.
me just put
Now
the,
we're going to go to a roll call vote on our main motion as substitute.
let me just change this motion number. Mr. Benner,
No.
1 second. Mr. Blankenship,
Pass.
Mr. Duque,
No.
Mr. Eklund. Mr. Eklund. I'll come back to him. Ms. Eiler,
Yes.
Mr. Elliott,
Yes.
Mr. Ford,
Yes.
Ms. Gabbard,
Yes.
Mr. Hagopian.
Pass.
I will vote yes. Mr. Nana,
Yes.
Mr. Nikela,
Yes.
Mr. Rufo,
I'll abstain.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Watkins,
Yes.
Mr. Blankenship,
Abstain.
Mr. Eklund. Did we lose Mr. Eklund?
I had to manually
Um,
leave the executive session room, so I don't know if he has not done that yet himself.
Okay. Mr. Hagopian,
I'll go with yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
okay, if Mr. Eklund joins us in the next 5 minutes, he'll be able to add his vote. Let me go check.
Yeah, I'm trying to look in the room to see. I don't
Yeah.
see it. It says rooms 1. Oh.
Yeah,
well,
then he's not in there. We lost him.
okay.
If he comes back with it, I'll note the time. If he comes back within 5 minutes, our standing rules allow him to still vote.
Yeah. Okay.
So
I'm
Madam
gonna not.
Chair,
I'm gonna not vote on this one.
okay, so it is 10-2-3.
All right, there you go. The motion passes. Thank you, guys. Right. Oh, squeak. Okay, let's take a moment here. We'll get this one ready. And then the next person we had in queue was
Oh.
Pat Ford.
Yes. I just forgot to clear out a template, sorry.
Oh, good. Take a moment. That one took a little bit.
Driving in a snowstorm, and I'm switching to Google. I mean Gmail. Because this is what we do in Outlook. Okay, can you all hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, so I guess I'm effectively, and I'm structuring this based on the suggestion Mr. Hagopian was kind enough to provide me. I would amend that $17,500 is taken from the outreach and activism general expense budget and put the same 17,500 into a new minor GL code for affiliate support under the core services budget section. Would you like me to speak to that?
Yes.
What,
Well,
what,
we need it seconded, I think.
and I need you to write that out or say it really slowly because I did not get that, sir.
Okay. All right, give me just a moment. If someone wants to second it or not second it. Somebody second it?
I'll second it for purposes of debate.
Okay.
I would like to amend that $17,500 is taken from the outreach and activism general expense budget.
What's the line number?
I'm switching, bear with me. Mr. Gopi.
It's 7,000-81.
Thank you.
7081 or?
7000-81.
Thank you.
And that 17,500 be placed into a new minor GL code for affiliate support under the core services budget section.
You're going to need to give me your new minor GL code.
Mr. Agopian, how would you like that structured, or what's the format for that?
Give me 1 second. I'm toggling between a bunch of screens
If
here.
I can propose an easy one, I would make that line item 7000-84.
Okay.
Okay,
And the reason
so we got it down. It's been moved and seconded. I think now, if you want to speak to your motion, go right ahead.
Right. The Affiliate Support Committee is a long-term standing committee of the Libertarian Party. We understand that going forward, that a great deal of money needs to be expended in areas like ballot access. The Affiliate Support Committee has never really played anything more than, and again, not looking to diminish anyone's efforts whatsoever, but has largely played a project role. And at the same time, it's clear based on the issues of the last 2 years that National needs to invest in the relationship between its affiliates and the National Committee. As a result, the committee, as I attested to at our most recent meeting, is broken into 3 working groups. The affiliate hub support, the, if you will, affiliate in a box, and most interestingly, the notion of having actual libertarian chapters at colleges around the country. This has a potential, all of these programs, to actually generate real enthusiasm, new membership, and a level of activity at the college level, which could be highly beneficial to campaigns and to volunteers around the country, and provide a whole new, if you will, funnel for potential national members, as almost all of these students will be of age to become national members should they choose. That will take some money. And I will just tell you from a personal perspective, I'm a cheap SOB. I spend money like it's my own. I've bootstrapped startups a good part of my life. But there will be materials, there will be costs involved in doing so. I believe this has the potential within a year or two to be revenue positive. Additionally, the committee will engage in fundraising to meet and hopefully exceed, but at least to meet this commitment. This commitment represents approximately 1% of the Libertarian budget. But I would argue to all of you that investing into what I'll always call placing the volunteer gene in the Libertarian Party DNA, into developing a pipeline for college students so that we no longer have to depend on neocons, YALs, and all those other nice people into helping us. All of that has got the potential to have dramatic impact almost immediately. Finally, as I've said a couple times tonight and before, I believe, I as a former accountant, I don't have an issue with GL codes. Of course, you can't get crazy. But at the same token, if you're not delineating budgets, how can someone or an individual, or in this case, a group of individuals, because we're a team, actively manage what is a business within the Libertarian National Committee? And the notion that we have to come a cropper, as they used to say in literature, Mr. Benner would recognize that, to the LNC to ask for money, that's not the way to plan an enterprise. That's not the way to create energy. And quite frankly, I agree with Ms. Harlow that it's important that the executive committee, as well-intentioned and as great people as they are, love you all. We can't set the precedent moving forward that the executive committee effectively doles out money to standing committees within the party itself. Questions, objections, insults, diatribes, I welcome them all.
Okay, so I'm gonna start with a couple and then I'm gonna pass it to our treasurer. What expenses did the committee have last year?
Virtually none. Of course, the committee virtually, after it's really committee's been in business for 3 or 4 months, its predecessor didn't do much.
Okay. What are the plans to spend it on this year?
Largely, in my mind, we're going to be looking to take whatever money we're given and break it out on materials. That's printed materials, Google ad campaigns directly designed to disseminate information about the activities of the affiliate support. So I'm looking for, amongst other things, digital and collateral support for the activities, particularly of the affiliate hub, and most particularly the collegiate activities. On top of that, we would like to have the ability from time to time to disseminate small funds. I'm talking a few $100s at a time, to help in the logistical efforts of different Libertarian Party affiliates as they engage in relief efforts.
Are there any proposals or anything?
No, because honestly, I've been trying to figure out what amount of money I can work with.
Okay.
And that'll be largely, again, we're not looking to have money for the sake of money, but I think it's important to have an operating budget that simply I can run with. Also, simultaneously tying accountability to that operating budget. Again, we're talking less than 1% of the annual budget of the party for arguably one of its most important areas.
Okay. Let me go to our treasurer, Mr. Hagopian.
Okay, so real quick, GL code comment. We are a committee that oversees the LP. The LP staff runs the LP. The Microsoft Board of Directors does not decide how the money is spent. The Microsoft Board of Directors gives direction on how the money is spent. So we can say that we want to spend X amount on outreach. And if the LP decides that the staff, that this is the best use of the money, then that's what they should do. If at any point we think that the staff is doing the wrong thing, we have the ability to dictate to the staff for them to spend something differently. If there is a specific proposal that has dollars and cents attached to it, we can dictate that they do that. And we have. I have no huge concern with actually having a GL code specifically for something if we think that it is something that we need. I would say that we spent about $600 this year in a year that we're going to have about 30% more revenue than next year. And in a year where we don't have a $250,000 ballot access bogey. So having it be a change where we go up 17,500 year over year, I think this is the wrong year to do that. So I will be, as much as I helped Pat Ford get that ready, I think he knows that I am against actually splitting up this GL code this year for that amount of money for those reasons.
Okay. I'm gonna have a couple of questions. Yes, and then we're gonna go to Ms. Harlows, and then I'm gonna have a couple of questions.
Absolutely. So we allocate money to ballot access. We do. I just don't see, again, I do not pretend to have Mr. Hagopian's qualifications. I've just never worked in an operation before where there's no money. You've got to come up with a plan that will take weeks or months. Then go get it. That just doesn't work at a business level. What's the point of having a committee if you're not willing to invest some level of funds? And again, we're talking the funds we're talking relative to every ballot. And by the way, these activities will be in direct support of those ballot access funds in many cases. But whatever that amount is, to simply operate on the, if you need anything, call us, we'll let you know. Because that's effectively what this is. I just don't think there's any way to run a business in any manner or form. We have.
I have to object, Madam Chair. I really apologize, Mr. Ford, but there needs to be a certain order to debate. And
whatever the order is.
Okay. Yeah,
like
I
you
thought it
should
was
raise
gonna
your
be
hand
a
and
quick response. Yeah. Okay. So let's let's get back in order for debate. Okay, so now Ms. Harless is going to go, and then I'm going to have some questions. And I have questions for Ms. Houston, so that kind of works out. Okay, go ahead, Ms. Harless. Nope, you accidentally muted yourself.
Here we go. I actually support this, but I do appreciate Mr. Hagopian's concerns about the amount jumping so high. And I'm very curious if Mr. Hagopian would be more inclined to a lower number, because we could always amend it higher if we fundraise for affiliate support. Just as an observation, we actually, as an LNC, unless we rescind this motion, have an obligation to a prior motion that just a past LNC ignored, where, to go off of what Mr. Ford said, where we committed to develop downloadable brochures in a special section of the website for affiliates to use. The outreach tables and things like this was passed about 2 years ago at the urging of Washington member Michael Smith, and it promptly got dropped and forgot. Also in the past, just for point of reference, the Affiliate Support Committee used to work very closely with the Ballot Access Committee. It used to be considered part of affiliate support. I do have to disagree respectfully with Mr. Hagopian. I know this is just a board management philosophy difference, and there's no right or wrong way. We're just different. I do not think that, I think the LNC has much more plenary control over the LNC and over the party, that we don't just say, here's money, and then staff makes the decision. I've never believed that. And I think the LNC can micromanage, but I don't think completely hands off is the way to go either. And what this is doing is fundamentally changing the character of committees that have existed on this board for ages. It just turned the Affiliate Support Committee into an unempowered committee. It's a fundamental change to a standing committee. And it's the same argument I'm going to make with the Historical Preservation Committee. Both of these committees are empowered committees, and you just made them a governing board of a nonprofit run under rules of parliamentary procedure. And this fundamental changing of the character of a committee, I just think is highly improper.
Thank you, Ms. Harless. Okay, I have a couple of questions. What are we taking that money, if Mr. Ford's motion passes as it is, what are we taking that money away from? Ms. Houston, actually, if you want to answer.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll speak as I understand it from Mr. Ford. So it sounds like what he's essentially saying is we have $88,400 in this line item for 7,000-81, and we would be subtracting that by 17.5 thousand, creating a new line item within this same category, and having that be its own line item for 17,500. So if you're lowering that, we're essentially losing that money. I can just show everybody what the math on that looks like right here, just so they can keep that in the back of their mind. Something else I would really encourage us to talk about before we jump into making that decision is what is earmarked in that section, right? So what are you cutting, right, in terms of purchases or flexibility throughout the rest of the year if we were to go with that change? So let me know if there's an appetite to do that.
Yeah, that's specifically what I'm asking, is before we vote on
Yeah.
this, I just want to know what are we taking money away from?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm gonna just make sure everyone can see what this new line item would be. If we were to add that, so the new number would be 70,900. Let me talk about what's going into this 88,400 right now. If you all recall, back in Austin, we laid out our roadmap for how we are organizing the staff, and that also includes all of the various committees that we liaise with. And really what we're saying is, as an organization, we do two big projects in addition to our administrative and overhead. One is growth and operations. So this is organizing all of our efforts around fundraising and running the party and like things like that. And then second is political impact. So everything you're seeing in this core services area, that relates to our activism efforts, to our political impact efforts, what have you. In some cases, we have the staff spending money or making purchasing decisions. In other cases, we have committees doing so. In pretty much every case, the committees provide guidance, they don't always have a budget, right? So just throwing that out there. So here are some of the things that we've got earmarked for this year. Please keep in mind that all of our communications director activity falls under this area. So a lot of the expenses that we have to run comms come out of this. Let me just go down what I have written down. And keep in mind, this is without any additional spend for the rest of the year. So we've got partial allocation for a contractor we've been working with for many months, I believe about 2 years. 1/3 of their time is allocated into this. And then we also have some software that we are allocating. And I just want to be respectful to the contractor and not go into too many details without going to executive session, but just doing some math here. All of that totals up to, sorry, just make sure I got this, mental math. Let's see, $39,500 for like a communication style budget. And again, that's with no innovation, no ability to do exciting videos or content or things like that that can really help our activism. That's just for tracking software, which has been doing an amazing job for us and being able to help us get earned media. That's for analytical software. That's for being able to track the appearances that the Libertarian Party has all around the internet, essentially to be able to track the entire internet and see when we're mentioned. Very critical stuff, and some contract work. In addition to that, we've also set up cost for LP store, about $10,000 of that to come out of our political impact area. And this would actually speak to Ms. Harlos's point about fulfilling affiliate style content. Right now, the way our store works is you can essentially purchase items at cost. What we're going to be doing moving forward is having some merchandise go towards fundraising where it's actually intended to generate a profit. And we probably plan to continue our process where we're just going to offer very cheap materials such as rack cards or pamphlets, or I forget exactly the word you used there, Karen Ann, but all of those would come out of this merchandise element as well. So essentially we have kind of like an affiliate activity that is staff directed and has always been staff directed happening there for $10,000. Finally, due to requests from the Historical Preservation Committee, we've got $6,200 earmarked. That's about a $2,800 classic expense, and then those storage fees of $3,400. So all of that totals up to $55.7K. What I'm gonna just point out is that I know, Pat, you're mentioning here, hey, it's only 1% of the budget. I know it's easy to mention things in that way, and that's definitely a one way of looking at it. Another way of looking at it is we have about $30,000 to spend on all political ideas for the entire year, next year. And if we are spending the $17,500, you're basically taking that 30K and you're allocating 54% of your creative ideas to this one budget without actually concrete ideas of what we're going to spend money on. So I'm not saying we should or shouldn't do it, but just keep in mind, that's your number, is about $30,000 that we can get creative and do additional political projects. And that has to service all of our political committees, staff related activities, whatever. So is there anything else I can answer there for you, Angela?
I think, wait, are there affiliate materials already allocated in that? Anything for affiliate support?
$10,000 is already allocated to not affiliate support committee spending decision, but merchandise, which is sold at cost to affiliates. And that's how we've been doing it. It's basically offered at the cheapest level so that they can just get stuff shipped to them.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ms. Houston. We're going to go into Ms. Harlos. I'm just going to say I think the elephant in the room right now is we need more money. We need more money. This is a budget meeting. We're always going to have fights over how the money is spent, but I'm really excited about us making more money. So let's all try to keep that in perspective. Yay, more money. Anyway, go ahead, Ms. Harlos.
Okay, I have a potential solution for this, which is the way we solved it in the past. But I have a question for Ms. Houston. The Historical Preservation Committee budget is traditionally just $2,500. I heard like a 6,000 figure in there.
Yes. So I can address that. Thanks, Karen Ann. So we've allocated 2,800 for this. If you would like to be magnanimous and go down to 2,500, I'll take that $300 back and we'll be able to put it to good use. But the $3,400 that totals that all up to 6,200 comes from storage fees, which
Right.
were, kind of put not in the best place in the budget before. So I've partnered with Robert and Todd, who support this as well, to just accurately, it's my understanding that those storage fees are really only to store our historical artifacts. So we're essentially adding that to the committee, earmarks, and it's already a contract we plan on spending. So there's no real plus or minus, to what's happening. It's just getting moved into a different section of the budget.
Okay, so here's, and yeah, the historical, as far as with the committee itself for its scanning work and stuff, should just be $2,500, not $2,800. The way we did this in the past is empowered committees made a commitment to fundraise funds to offset their budget lines. That's why there are earmarked pages for certain committees. And the way we handled this in the past is we had a sub GL line under expenses for, I'm just going to use, this could go for affiliate support, but for the historical project of $2,500. And then also under fundraising, a budget line of $2,500. And the committee, except for 1 year, has not spent our budget unless we raised it. So we were a zero net cost. That's always been the commitment. Now, some years it doesn't happen. In our reports, we let the LNC know that's not going to happen. But over the history of the historical committee, I think we've only ever, as far as the discretionary fund we had, haven't raised that $2,500 each year. So I would suggest that if Pat thinks he can raise a certain amount, is to add this line that he wants to add and add a concurrent fundraising line that he will commit to fundraise for to offset it. So it's not coming from anywhere else, and that you don't spend it if you don't raise it. That's the way we handled this in the past.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Harlos. All right, Mr. Hagopian.
I was coming to make essentially the same point, that you can't do this without also adding a revenue line. To take it one step further, I would say that the total revenue should stay at 1.723 million, because one thing we know is that we typically get X amount per person. And you're likely to cannibalize fundraising if you focus on one thing over something else. So we would be taking 7,000 out of general fundraising, I'm saying 7 because I looked up and that's what was earmarked last year. So I wouldn't suggest 17.5. Pat, if you ask me for my opinion, 7, or somebody asked me for my opinion, 7 would be as high as I would go. You would take 7 out of general fundraising. You would put in 7 for affiliate development fundraising, and then you would put in 7 for affiliate development expense. And to Karen Ann's point, you only get to spend the expense if the fundraising comes in.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hagopian. Okay, next we got Mr. Ford.
So, in a sense, I'm going to defer back to Mr. Hagopian for perhaps a little more development on that idea in a second. But I'm going to raise this question, and it's not a rhetorical question. I'll raise it to Ms. Houston, I'll raise it to Madam Chair, anyone who wants to address it. Why do we have an affiliate support committee? What is its goal supposed to be? And how do we expect it to get there?
Oh, well, Mr. Ford, I mean, there's like a explicit document I sent you. I don't want to put you on the spot, but
the
that
is partially rhetorical. But the point is if we're going to, well, first of all, it strikes me that you've got affiliate support issues taking place sprinkled throughout this diverse area. An entire conversation could be had at another time about the notion of dedicating funds to support materials when in the year 2023, quite frankly, it could probably be done more efficiently by just simply disseminating the basic information to local areas and have them do it themselves. and that's just an example. We've got questions about how, outside of the affiliate support committee, about how affiliate websites can be tied into a global vision of this or that. That's happening outside of the affiliate support committee. If you're, and I'm open to suggestions on, and the amount is negotiable, but at a certain point in time, I'll just reiterate, if you expect to have a working standing committee that is written in stone, and you're looking for something from them besides the odd and occasional contest, then it needs some sort of base level of funding. And again, the amounts that we're talking about are de minimis, considering how much money has been spent on a variety of issues, over the last just 2 years. So if you want results, I'm looking for some sort of baseline investment, plus not having to again walk to national hat in hand, in a sense, anytime I want to envision anything, or anytime anyone in the committee wants to envision anything. Our weakest point over the last couple of years has been our relationship with our affiliates. I'm looking to strengthen that with a minimal investment. So I'm open to suggestions.
And I think about $4,000 got raised. The committee didn't ask for anything that I know of, so nothing got spent. What I'm saying is, if you want to do it the right way, what you would do is the exact same thing they've done in the past, which you take, say, $7,000 and you put it there in the revenue line and in the expense line, and you only get to spend what you make.
Mm-hmm.
That's my solution to you if you want a budget.
I don't know what.
So,
Okay.
Hold on,
So-
let's
Go ahead,
move down. Let's not go back and forth too much because we've got to move down the queue and then we got to keep going. Okay, Ms. Harless?
Okay, I'm gonna have another respectful disagreement with Mr. Hagopian. I don't believe in this fixed pie, that if we raise for one thing, it cannibalizes from another, and I do have data for this. The people who contribute specifically to the historical committee are people I've built relationships with who, for whatever reason, and this has been over LNCs, so it has nothing to do with caucuses or anything. They're mad at the party. They're old timers who are yearning for the good old days, and they will not give money to the party, but they'll give money to the historical committee. It's money we would not get other ways. I think we need to stop acting like we're in competition with each other, that there are different people with different passions that will give to some things and not give to others. But I'm going to say something that's probably going to make Pat mad right now. I think we're all getting super tired. I don't think we're going to make a wise decision right now on either the affiliate support committee or LPDA, which I'm going to be wanting to make a similar motion. I think we need to pass this budget today and move to amend it at our January meeting, when we can work with maybe some better formed motions that do the proper offsets, where we're all fresher, because we also have an executive committee meeting coming up where we have guests invited from New Mexico. We need to get to that. I have a hard stop time at 7 o'clock. I cannot stay Mountain, which is 9 Eastern. But I know I'm super tired. I think we should postpone the rest of these budget amendment motions to January, where we can be fresh, pass this budget, but put the committee on notice that there'll be my motion and Mr. Ford's motion that will
And
work with the
potentially mine.
treasurer on.
And potentially mine.
Yes, and potentially, well, if yours has to do with legal, I want to deal with that because we have the New Mexico people here. But these arguments about committees, I think we're going in circles and we're just irritating the rest of the LNC right now because we're tired, and that these should be brought up separately at another time, that we need to just pass this budget with whatever amendments Madam Chair might have.
Gotcha.
So I'm moving to postpone these committee motions to the
Okay.
January meeting.
So it's been moved
I'll
and
second.
seconded.
Oh,
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Nope, we got Mr. Ford.
Yeah, I spiritually don't have an issue with Ms. Harlow's points at all. We do have a motion on the floor, though.
Right, and I moved to postpone it.
Okay, thank you. That's what I was about to ask, what the logistics are. I just want to go on the record, though, and everyone in this group continues to operate in good faith. I believe that sincerely, and I know we will have disagreements. This might be one of them, but I just want to stress that I am on the record that this needs to be debated in January, because there are two issues here. Number one, the future of the affiliate support committee. Number two, the committee system in and of itself. I am firmly with Ms. Harlos in saying that redirecting all this money into one big pot without individual budget is moving the power away from, if you will, I hate to use that term power, but moving out, better yet, the management away of these individual committees, of which we rely on so much, all right, away from the body.
Mr. Ford, you're not debating the motion to postpone. I object that.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay. Okay, any discussion on the motion to postpone? Going once, going twice. Okay, if not, I'm gonna lower Miss Houston's hand. Okay, let's go to a roll call vote.
One moment.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Benner,
Yes.
Mr. Blankenship,
Yes.
Mr. Duque,
Yes.
Mr. Eklund. I think we lost him permanently. I mean, not permanently, hopefully. Ms. Eiler,
Yes.
Mr. Elliott,
Yes.
Mr. Ford,
Yes.
Ms. Gabbard,
Yes.
Mr. Hagopian.
Yes.
I will vote yes. Is Mr. Nana still here? So Mr. Nepo,
I vote yes.
Mr. Nikela,
I vote yes.
Mr. Rufo,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Stay.
you abstained?
I did, yes.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Watkins?
Yes.
Okay, Madam Chair, it's 1301. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, oh my goodness. Okay, so here's a couple of things that we're gonna need to consider. We need to deal with some legal stuff. In order to discuss how much money we need to allocate to that in our budget, we need to go into executive session because we have to discuss the finer points of X, Y, and Z. And there's no way to separate that out. There's just not, because I have to present you with scenario A, B, and C and tell you all the different ways it could go, how much it could cost, or how little it could cost. Very exciting.
Madam Chair, I have a suggestion.
Yes.
If this might not be amenable to the LNC, but we could pass this budget
Mhm.
and then go into executive session. And if everyone is still up for it, we can move to amend the budget when we come out of executive session, with whatever's decided, or we can amend it at a later date with whatever is decided. But I do have a hard stop time, and
Okay.
I do think we have to pass a budget today.
Yeah, so I want to tell you that personally, I think it's possible to kick this can down the road till January, because I think that we have enough that if I need to pull the trigger on something, I can do that. And then we can amend it in January as long as it's early, in the month. I think that's doable.
So, yeah, I then, Madam Chair, if you would be amenable to this, I would
Mhm.
like to move to approve the budget as amended.
Second.
All right. It's been moved and seconded to approve the budget as amended. Any discussion? More discussion? Any objections? All right, we're going to a roll call vote. Thank you, everyone. Deep breaths.
You told him slowing down.
We'll be amending we'll be amending the budget in the future to add distance healing from Reiki for everyone for the next budget meeting to help us get through it as painlessly as possible. So
Okay,
that'll
Mr.
be-
Benner,
Yes.
Mr. Blankenship,
Yes.
Mr. Duque,
Yes.
Mr. Eklund, I'm just calling, no, he's gone. Ms. Eiler?
Oh, yes, I made it. I just boarded the airplane and I made the boat.
Okay, Mr. Elliott,
Yes.
Mr. Ford,
Yes.
Ms. Gabbard,
Yes.
Mr. Hagopian?
Yes.
I will vote yes. Mr. Nepo,
Yes.
Mr. Nikela,
Yes.
Mr. Rupo,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Watkins,
Yes.
Madam Chair, it's 1400.
All right, the motion passes. Thank you all.
Madam Chair, I would move to go, well, actually, unless somebody has some further motions, I'd move to adjourn the LNC meeting and then move into the executive committee meeting that was scheduled for immediately after.
Moved and seconded.
Point of information, Madam Chair.
Yes.
Is this the would this be the executive, or I'm sorry, would this be the meeting to talk about legal stuff?
Yes, it will be.
Okay. Okay.
So it's been moved and seconded to adjourn and then go into the XCOM meeting. I am going to tell you, we're going to take a little 5-minute break, bathroom break. Any discussion, any objection? Going once, going twice. All right, so we are hearing no objection. We are adjourned at 6:51 Eastern from our budget meeting, and I will see the LNC and the XCOM in an XCOM meeting next, and you can anticipate that that will be taking place in executive session. But we're going to take a little 5-minute break. We good?
Yes, yes, thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you.
Can the gallery speak while we're at ease?
We can, but it seems like nobody wants to.
I just want to say that that baby is the cutest baby I've ever seen.
Right?
And, yeah, like that's awesome.
He's very
Thank you.
adorable.
I'm back now.
He's squeaking right now. He squeaks like a little mouse.
He's adorable.
What you doing down there, buddy? He's squeaking in his sleep. He might be waking up. I might get to feed him again.
My cat does that.
Right? I was petting him. I was petting him like I pet my cat, and then I was like, oh, that's a person. Don't do that. Oh my goodness. What's going on? Oh my goodness. Okay, are we waiting on people? How are we looking?
Let's see, for the executive committee, we have you, me, Joshua.
Yep.
Who am I? Miss Steve, Mr. Nikela. Right? Or am I confused? No, Nikela's, yeah, Nikela. Oh my God. Is Mr. Elliott here? Did we lose Mr. Elliott?
I don't see him.
Okay, Mr. Hagopian.
Yep, I'm here.
Yep, right there.
Well, we're missing Mr. Bowen and Mr. Elliott, but we have a quorum.
All right. All right, well, we knew we were gonna be missing Mr. Bowen. Let's go ahead and do our thing.
Okay, so are you calling the executive committee?
Once I see the actual time, there we go. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and call our executive committee meeting to order at 6:59 PM Eastern Time. Okay, and need to make this bigger so I can see. Let's do roll call. Madam Secretary, if you don't mind.
Okay, let me go back up here. So Ms. McCardle,
Here.
Mr. Smith, is Mr. Smith still here?
Hold on.
I see him.
See him. Come back to him. I'm texting him.
Okay. Mr. Hagopian,
Here.
I am here. I'm gonna call Mr. Elliott one more time. Nope, and Mr. Nikela.
Here.
Okay, so pending Mr. Smith, we're only missing Mr. Bowen and Mr. Elliott.
We still have quorum.
Yeah.
Okay, do we want to do public comment? Anybody got public comment? He said I'm still on the call. Okay, he just stepped away for 1 second.
Okay.
Okay, so he's coming back. Okay, does anybody have public comment? If so, go to the bottom of the screen, click the little reaction thing and raise your hand. Okay, and I'm not seeing anything. Oh, just kidding. Jonathan Jacobs. Okay, Mr. Jacobs, go right ahead.
Yes, I just have two questions, excuse me. The first one is, will you be announcing the purpose for the executive session? And second, will you be announcing a general motion if one is adopted in executive session? In public sessions?
Sure, I can do that.
Okay, that was all that I.
Yep, got it.
And Madam Chair, I believed it was our intention, we're not going to be passing any motions today, that it could wait until January, that this was more general legal discussion.
Yep. Okay, okay, we have another public comment from Mr. George Phillies. Mr. Phillies, go ahead.
Without knowing what you are planning to do legally, I will simply counsel you, having been active as a watcher of the LNC for a quarter century, that going to litigation on issues has generally turned out very poorly, and you should consider very carefully alternatives. In particular, when you have this very large need for ballot access money, unless that's a litigation issue, of course, you might want to focus on that instead. But that's just my advice. Merry Christmas to you, Aunt Angela, and to Arthur.
Thank you very much, Mr. Phillies. Merry Christmas. Okay. If that's it for public comment, Mr. Smith says he has returned. Okay, now we're good. Okay, so we are having this meeting to discuss some legal stuff with respect to our New Mexico affiliate.
So, Madam Chair, I would move that the executive committee, along with any LNC members, our executive director, and any members from the board of New Mexico that are present, be permitted to attend to discuss potential New Mexico related litigation.
Okay, you got it. It's been moved. Needs a second. I will second it if we don't have anyone else who's able to second.
I'll second.
There we go. Thank you. Josh is not feeling well, everyone, so thank you for being here in spite of that. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any questions, any discussion, any objection? Going once, going twice. Okay, we are going to go into executive session. Ms. Harless, how would you like to handle that?
Well, we're not going to be doing any motions today, so I would suggest that we just ask people who are not included in the list to leave the meeting, since there's going to be no other, the only thing we're going to do is come out of executive session and adjourn. There's going to be no further public business, so that just people stay in the meeting that were invited to executive session, and I'm going to be turning off the YouTube stream now.
Okay, great. I'll give us just a second to do that. Yep.
All right, so we rose out of executive session at what time? 7:45? No, 7:45 Eastern?
Yep.
Okay.
Good job.
All right.
All right. We're out of,
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. I was just going to say we're out of executive session. There's one thing left on the agenda.
I would move to adjourn.
Okay.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn out of this executive committee meeting. Any objections? Going once, going twice. All right, we are adjourned at 7:47 p.m. Eastern. Thank you, everyone. I will be in touch with you, and I will see many of you on our next LNC monthly meeting.
All right, have a good night, everyone.
You and your baby.
Good night.
Bye, guys.